Welcome back, everybody. The draft is done. Jordan, I don't know what you're drinking today, but cheers, buddy.
Cheers,
We got
man.
the same hats on.
Same hats. I got a little Michelob Ultra going on right here.
I've got Ace High Imperial Cider. It is 8-point alcohol.
Imperial cider, nice.
Peach Imperial. Oh, this is apple, but yeah.
Peach or apple? Is that Ace? Is that what that is?
Ace. Yep.
Oh, Ace makes a good cider.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, they do.
Got the variety pack. I bought it yesterday, not realizing that it was 8%. So it was a little bit of a shock when I saw.
Wait, how many in did you get shocked by the weight of it?
When you're halfway through one and you already can feel a little lightheaded, that's when I got through it. But yeah, Jordan, I know last year, I don't remember if we did a day 3 recap, but I do remember after day 1, I was one of the only people who was not feeling bad about the draft, even after day 2, and not many people are fans of Patrick Paul at the time, but it feels like there's a much different vibe for most of their fan base. And if you would you please pull up the pick so we can go over this real quick?
Yeah.
So yeah, we talked about Kenneth Grant, Michigan is our first pick, defensive tackle. Good player. You were driving home yesterday and called me just as we traded up for Jonah Savanea.
How great is it that we had the whole thing earlier in the week where I made you learn how to say it?
Yeah, I was about to say that.
But I do think it's Savanea. I think that's how I saw it pronounced on TV.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but that's what I saw.
Yeah, I thought Savanea. We'll go with Savanea. But first reaction when we traded up was, damn, it sucks to lose a 3rd-round pick. But, and it's something that, and it's going to be a topic, I think, today and among Dolphins Twitter. We were all fans of Marcus Embo. But I think as we got close to the draft, it became very, very evident that in the NFL's eyes, there was a huge drop-off after Jonah with interior offensive linemen. I don't know if you saw the videos that were posted of the calls that he got, but they came out and said Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel loved him. It sounds like they had a 1st-round grade on Jonah. So I like it. I will give the first 2 picks, honestly, A+, because you get 2 guys I think you can put in pen as starters. I think they're plus starters right away, and they got all pro potential. And it's funny because the two comparisons NFL Network gave for Kenneth Grant and Jonah Savanea were Dexter Lawrence and Mike Iupati. Would that not be great if we got even half the players those guys became?
Yeah, I think when you look at Jonah Savanea, when you start talking about tiers in the draft, I think he's a lot closer to like that Gray Zabel, Donovan Jackson, Josh Connerly, Josh Simmons tier than he is to the tier of guys that were after him. The next guy being Ursary from Minnesota, Belton,
pick where we picked,
and Tate Ratledge, who you could have argued that Ratledge is in that tier, but I think the Dolphins felt differently, and the Dolphins felt that was a key guy that they had to get, and I have no problem with them using the 3rd-round pick to go up and get him. You see the amount of other players that we drafted, although it was starting in the 5th round, and you could make the argument that maybe we should have been a little more aggressive moving from like the 5th to the 4th, but I have absolutely no problem with moving up to get Savanea there. I think he's going to plug right in. I think he's going to play right guard. I know a lot of people said they thought he was going to play left guard. I think 2 big things. I think number 1, Patrick Paul should be next to James Daniels. I would feel more comfortable with that than Patrick Paul playing next to a rookie. And number 2, Savanea, although he did play 3 games of left tackle, the majority of the time in college was spent at either right guard or right tackle. And he did come out afterwards and say that he's a guard, which leads me to believe if they end up playing him at left guard and there's a comfortability there, great. But I think that I would prefer him at a position where he has a lot of experience in college, and James Daniels has played both left and right guard.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw the story, but they actually talked about a lot. Savanaya was actually in a situation where a teammate was just getting destroyed against USC, and he willingly moved to guard to just give a better matchup. So he wants to play in there, and he actually said the article said the gods want him to block for his people. So.
Hey man, I love that. I'm big on culture, on team family, and I think that for what we're trying to build, I mean, not just simply his connection with Tua, but I think that team first mentality, a lot like I talked about the other night when Will Campbell got drafted by the Patriots. And I said, I love that mindset that some of these linemen have, that they will, and they have to be successful offensive linemen in the NFL. You have to be willing to do whatever it takes for your team.
Yep. Overall, very happy. I agree. And we'll keep going. Real quick, a discussion we had this morning too, would it have been better to take one of those second level guys and then try and get basically fill corner or guard and then try and fill the other in the third? Look, either way, you were having to trade up. The Chris Greer did a good job reading the draft board, I thought. And that's a discussion. The corner run came a lot later than I thought it was. Yeah. But at that point, we had already made the trade up for Jonah. You just have to listen to what they say. And they said you can, and this is true, you can get corners anywhere. And I think they full on felt that they needed to beef up the trenches, which we will talk about a lot more. Yeah. But they have prioritized the trenches, and you need to prioritize the trenches to win in January. And yes, as said, you and I were like two of the only people that praised this when they said they needed to get more physical. Everybody said believe it when we see it, and they stuck to their guns
for sure. Yep. No doubt.
Now to move into today, there was a run on D tackles early, and we traded back. I'm not a fan. I wasn't a fan of trading back into the fifth, but we got a third next year. We basically did the reverse of what we did to get Jalen Wright last year. So you kind of have to be fine with that because we got a premium resource for next year and what's going to be a stronger draft. And I think we got a guy who we probably would have drafted in the fourth round in Jordan Phillips. Not the Jordan Phillips we used to have, who's now one of the most hated players for Dolphin fans with Buffalo. But young guy, I think he's only I don't even think he's turned 21 yet. But
yeah, I think he's a really young guy there. And it's funny because when you and Kevin did our mock draft, and then I did our Dolphins mock draft, I don't know if you remember, we were looking at the D tackles in either I think it was the fourth round, around that 118 slot. And Jordan Phillips was there with I think it was Ty Alexander with CJ West, or Ty Robinson, CJ West. And I said that I wouldn't take Jordan Phillips just simply because his name is Jordan Phillips. Yeah. Now we have to root for him. But looking at him, it makes a lot of sense why this team likes him. As for the trade, I think that last year I said about the Jalen Wright trade, it's a trade you're happy with now, but we'll be upset with later. I think this is a trade that you're upset with now, and then you'll be happy with later when it comes around next year. And we have an extra third round to play with.
Now, I do think Jordan Phillips becomes a immediate rotation player.
Oh,
I think
for sure.
He's going to play. So I think you're happy. I think you're happy with that. For our other two fifth-round picks, I'm just going to be honest. I'm grouping them together. Jason Marshall and Dante Trader. I had no idea who they were until we drafted them. I had no idea. Shout out to Eric Galko, though. I believe he's with the Shrine Bowl. But he loves Jason Marshall, said he is a steal. A lot of the people who deal with the Bulls, they like him. I looked up his highlights afterwards, and he's a boundary corner. He plays like how we like our boundary corners to play. So there is some potential there.
Well, what I saw on Marshall before we move on to Trader, I like you said, I saw he was very successful at the Shrine Bowl. And then I saw that it seemed like he was playing well. And then dealt with some nagging injuries and struggled once he was trying to come back from those injuries. Yeah. He's a raw prospect, but you're drafting him in the middle of the fifth round. And I think that if the Dolphin fans are looking for a corner that's going to start right now, week one, I don't know if that's Jason Marshall. I think we still have to go out and add a veteran, maybe even two if we're still trading Jalen Ramsey.
They came out and said, you were at the game. They came out and said they've agreed. They're going to trade him.
Okay, so now you need 2 corners. Like I talked about before, I think you can use a next year's pick and go get one of the kids from Cleveland, whether it's Martin Emerson or Greg Newsome. I think those are 2 right away guys that you can
Asante Samuel.
Asante Samuel's out there. There are a number of free agents out there too. But I think Jason Marshall's a nice prospect to have. Obviously was a big recruit to have ended up at the University of Florida. So, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Dante Trader, again, hadn't heard of him. The only thing I saw afterwards is his RAS was like 2.2. So the RAS is
didn't
bad.
That happen, if I remember correctly, didn't that happen with Patrick McMorris last year?
Funny enough, it goes with Patrick McMorris as well. This guy was actually recruited to Maryland as a lacrosse player, they said.
Oh, wow.
So it's funny watching him. And you know how last year when we talked about Patrick McMorris, I'm like, this guy is a Raven safety.
Yeah.
And we just said it looking at that. Watching Trader's film at Maryland. First of all, why the hell are we drafting 2 Maryland defenders? But looking at Trader's film, it took me back to Mikey Sainristil and Jesse Minter's defense at Michigan. And it looked like exact same style. He's not the athlete Sainristil is, but he played the exact same way. So, again, he's probably a special teams guy. I think if you're looking for someone to contribute on defense, it would be Marshall over Trader. But I can see the upside with him. He is definitely
if you're saying that because of the way we're drafting and based on what Greer said before the draft, if he views Elijah Campbell as a guy that's going to play meaningful snaps on defense, then you need somebody that's going to handle those special teams duties. And if a guy like Trader could do that as a rookie, it's a great pick at that spot.
Yep. And the thing he said as well is he plays chess. He's a chess master, and he wants to trick the opposing offense. So
yeah, I love that. And I think that the scouting department, a lot like we talked about with Patrick McMorris, they have clearly, when it comes to safety, some sort of knack for liking those guys, kind of mid-day 3 that maybe aren't the conventional guys that are going in that range in mock drafts. And to me, before the injury, it was working when it came to Patrick McMorris. I liked what I saw last preseason. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that the same will happen with Dante Trader, especially from a special team standpoint early on.
Yeah. Ollie Gordon, I love the pick. I know Kev doesn't like Ollie Gordon. I think you and I were in agreement we needed a running back. We kept going with Damian Martinez. I forget however you pronounce it because they do it differently.
It's Martinez. It's very easy.
Some do Martinez, but either way.
Never heard that in my life.
You don't watch
somebody with the last name Martinez.
You have never watched European soccer then.
Okay.
But I didn't realize how big Ollie Gordon was. Otherwise, I think I probably would have mocked him to us more. And he's gone viral a bit with the cut up of his pass blocking.
Yeah.
I'm fine with this. I actually think, and this is also kind of recency bias because Jalen Wright was not up for the task last year, but I think Ollie Gordon becomes our RB2 a lot quicker than people may think.
I think when it comes to Ollie Gordon, I think he was awesome in 2023, and that's obvious. He won the Doak Award. I think he was unbelievable in 2023, and I think that Oklahoma State was a disaster last year for a majority of the season, and I think that kind of attributed to his game last season. So if you take the 2023 Ollie, and only the Dolphins know his motivation level and who he is as a person and his mindset in football. And they brought him in for a top 30. So clearly they like what they saw, just like they did with Marshall. And you got to just trust that when it comes to adding a running back to this room, they know that they need to add a physical running back. And this was – I think that – I don't know. If you want to say there's another guy – a little earlier that you would have picked, fine. But if Ollie Gordon runs and falls forward and gets 1 to 2 yards when we need a yard, hey, hell yeah, let's go. Because that's what he's going to be asked to do early on. And then anything else like overtaking Jalen Wright, I mean, allowing
it's a low bar right now. I just have to say that's a low bar, and that's not an insult to Jalen Wright. He just didn't add.
Yeah. No, right now, Ollie Gordon just needs to get a yard.
Yes.
Get a yard.
Now, for the fun one, probably the most fun pick of the day, honestly. Yours is insane value. I will agree here and shout out anybody who wants to talk Dolphins. Please join our Discord. The link is in the Twitter. Is in Twitter. But I didn't like Quinn Ewers as a first round pick. Once I thought he'd go into third. Once we got to the fifth round, I was like, I kind of think we're going to draft Quinn Ewers. Everybody was focusing on Shedeur Sanders. I never did for the Dolphins. I knew we had worked with Ewers, I believe, at the Combine and had a meeting with him at the Combine. I don't think it was at the Pro Day, but either way, we have done our research on Ewers. And yes, Mr. S has been having fun on Twitter. It has been a good time. But look, I've seen multiple people who I respect and multiple people I don't respect say Quinn Ewers is Skylar Thompson 2.0. Skylar Thompson, his final year at Kansas State as a 25-year-old, threw 12 touchdowns. Quinn Ewers was 21 years old this year, what, maybe 22, and threw almost 3,500 yards, 32 touchdowns, I believe, and got to the national semifinals.
Quinn Ewers to me, and I said it a long time ago on the show, Quinn Ewers to me has that little aspect to his game that Ryan Fitzpatrick has, that Gardner Minshew has, that guys like that have just a knack for being competitive. And no, he's not the most physically demanding quarterback, but I think that, and maybe not right away, I think Zach Wilson is the backup right now, but I think eventually you can get to a point where Quinn Ewers is a formidable backup in the NFL.
Yeah,
easily.
So let's call it what it is. Quinn Ewers got bad advice or made a dumb decision either way to enter the draft this year. The film was not good this year. There was some great performances.
Brett, I'll say this and I'll let you go. Quinn Ewers should be the starting quarterback at the University of Miami this year instead of a backup for the Miami Dolphins.
No, I'd agree. I think Ewers has the talent that if he goes to the right school in the portal, he's in the discussion for number one pick next year.
Yeah.
Instead, what I'm guessing happened, because I've heard them say this about the NFL Draft Advisory Board, is they give the generic round 3 or 4 grade to everybody. I've heard multiple people say that. So he probably was told he was round 3 or 4 quarterback. And I've seen multiple people say this with Shedeur Sanders over the last couple of days because everybody said he was a round 3 or 4 guy too, per NFL scouts. When you're a round 3 or 4 quarterback, if you don't go in round 3 or 4, you're falling. Yeah. You're going to fall. No one's taking quarterbacks until like round 7 otherwise, which is what happened. There was a run on quarterbacks in round 6 and 7. So it was a bad decision. He is a blank slate with a lot of talent. Worst case scenario, you cut him. He's nothing. Best case scenario, he's our Joe Milton, where we're trading him for a 2nd or 3rd round pick in a year or 2.
I don't even think that's realistic. I think that what he is somebody that possibly next year could be your backup quarterback.
Yes, not this year. We're talking 2026.
Yeah, I think this year he'll be the quarterback 3, and that's a good spot for him.
Yeah. Look, if Skylar Thompson can have a 3-year NFL career with us and no one complain and even say we're fine with him being the backup or we're
a lot of people complained, Brett.
A lot of people also said said they were comfortable with him if Tua was hurt too. Yeah. A lot of people said that too, so it went both ways. But yeah, I think he's better than Skylar already. I'm fine taking the risk. It's a raw quarterback to develop. There's nothing wrong with that in the 7th. It's not worth the discourse there is. It's fun. Zeke Biggers I'd never heard of before today.
I saw him in a couple Georgia Tech games that I watched. I mean, he's going to be a nose tackle.
Yeah, he's 6. Well, I think he saw 6'6", 320. Super athletic. I think I saw he had an 85-inch arm span. Blocked 4 punts in college.
Yeah, we needed a lot of interior defensive linemen, and we did it. Good job.
I may be being overly optimistic.
Hey, look at that! The Dolphins signed Jalen Conyers.
That's actually who I wanted us to pick over Biggers.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
But what I was going to say is I think all of Biggers, Phillips, and obviously Grant because he's a first-round pick, but I think all 3 defensive tackles make the team this year.
Dolphins sign Appalachian State running back Nate Noel.
Yeah, I saw they signed A.J. Henning from Northwestern too, wide receiver return specialist. But yeah, I think all 3 D tackles make the team, and I think all 3 D tackles might be in the rotation. That's not really meant as a compliment either to anybody that we drafted. It's just that we had coming into this draft 2 rosterable D tackles, maybe 1 if you don't like Benito Jones. So it's basically Phillips and Biggers competing against Neil Farrell and Matt Dickerson. I think they were the only other guys we had on the roster.
I think we add another to the room.
Yeah. But I think like you look at it, they're all athletic freaks. All 3 of these D tackles are freaks. They're active and they're disruptive, from what I've seen.
Yeah, and I think that the only 2, if you're looking at this, that won't see a snap on week 1 is probably Ewers and Trader will get some special team snaps.
Yep.
Probably only Ewers, and everybody else is going to be on the field at some point week 1.
So I will just say this: I'm pulling up Conyers again. This is basically a 3rd, 7th round pick in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good pick.
I think he makes
him a lot towards the end. I think in the list that I put out this morning of the guys I like, I'm pretty sure he was on that list.
Yep, you did have him on the list. So he's a good get. I do think he's a good get. I expect him to make the team over Julian Hill.
Me too.
Yeah. So to give this whole draft a grade, I'm giving it a B for beef because this is a beefy draft. We built the trenches, but also just I don't think it's a full-on A draft, but I can appreciate the philosophy. If people want to argue with me about the players, I'm fully prepared to do that and will respect the opinion. Jordan, you and I have spent 2 years of doing this podcast saying we are not physical enough. If we get punched in the mouth, we have a glass jaw. Kenneth Grant fixed that. Jonas Avenea fixes that. Jordan Phillips fixes that. Looking at the highlights of the 2 DBs we got, they're both physical. Ollie Gordon's physical. Zeke Biggers is physical. And Quinn Ewers is a tough guy. I don't like him, but he is a tough guy. The other thing I noticed is all these guys are known as first guys in, last guys out, which seems cliche, but we talk about what's the big thing that came out this year? We talked about the culture issues in Miami. There was a culture issue. People weren't listening. Everything that's come out about all these players, they were looked at as either leaders if they weren't already team captains, but they held people accountable. I saw multiple Maryland players and coaches say that Jordan Phillips is the type of guy who will drag his teammates with him. Jordan Phillips said in an interview that him and he would be staying late watching film and he'd look over and Trader was watching film too.
I love that.
Kenneth Grant, you have 3 NFL coaches, Wink Martindale, Jesse Minder, and Mike McDaniel all say he is who they would build the defense around, not Mason Graham. Ollie Gordon, a captain. I don't know if Zeke Biggers was a captain, but Jonas Avenea, team captain who willingly moved positions to help the team.
And Quinn Ewers went through a lot of adversity at Texas last year with Arch. And he battled.
Well, and a shoulder injury.
Right. But even right till the end in that Arizona State game, like he's a tough guy.
Yeah. So this is also about adding better character to the locker room, which I do think we did, even if not all these guys are stars. Honestly,
Brett, the Dolphins have signed a Michigan player.
Who?
Josh Preeby?
Preeby. He was a 1-year player with us. He was a grad transfer from Northwestern.
Well, he's a Dolphin.
He's all right. Yeah, I don't really have, like, if you're on this Michigan team on offense, aside from Loveland, I'm kind of glad to see you leave. But yeah, I'll be honest. If you want me to say home run picks, first 2 to me are home run picks. The rest of the draft, guys I like, but the rest of the draft's a seed draft. Guys who could be a little better, guys who could be a little worse. It's a low floor, it's a high floor, low ceiling for most of them, with 2, maybe 3 with Jordan Phillips, guys who can be all pros. but it's a tone setter. It's changing the tone of the locker room. So I like it. So that's why I'm giving it a B early on. And yes, I know no grading of the draft, the philosophy spot on. I'm just giving an opinion because I have the reputation of being too positive about the Dolphins, and I openly admit that. So I do want to say, first two picks I love. I think after that, you could not ask for better two picks. The rest, I would have done stuff differently. Marcus Mbo, we passed on him essentially 4 times. 1 trade and then three third-round picks. I would have drafted him. I know Mr. S would have drafted him because he went on a tirade both on Twitter and Discord. But I love the idea. They listen. This shows to me that Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer knew where they messed up last year.
Yeah, I think for sure. And I won't grade the draft, Brett, but I'll give you a number. The number that I'll give you for the draft is 2,118. That is the number of pounds combined of the Dolphins draft picks. And we added some size to this team, and that was so needed. So I don't know how much this is going to translate come September, but it's definitely in the step in the right direction in the way to build the team.
Yep. Real quick, I know we don't really want to talk about Restrepo, but I don't know about you, Jordan, but when he had that awful pro day, I said, yeah, he's not getting drafted.
Yeah, I heard some stuff about him in that bowl game leading up to it, and then he didn't have a great offseason. So I didn't think he was going to go undrafted, but it really looks like the NFL prioritized character when it came to this draft this year. And honestly, I like to see that. I hope that's a trickle down effect that guys see that, and some guys alter the way they act a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. Nope. And again, we just wanted to give a quick rundown of the draft. We'll have a little bit more in-depth stuff this week. We'll also talk about winners and losers because this draft was interesting. There was a lot of Jordan, you were at the hockey game today, but there was a lot of picks for people taking position like high-profile positions like wide receiver and running back, where I'm like, I have no idea who this guy is. So,
yeah, I thought that this was a thinner draft, and I think we talked about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But, every year there's some diamond in the rough guys that I know you and I are going to talk about this week. But keeping it Dolphin-centric tonight, I like what the Dolphins did, and I'm excited for rookie camp. And now that the draft is over, we talked about a lot going in, I'll be excited to talk this week about potential free agents we can add based on holes we still have.
Yep. And last thing I will say, do you agree with me? All these players are making the team.
Yes.
Yep. All right. So this was just a quick draft recap. Everybody, hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening. Jordan, I'll cheers you, buddy.
Cheers, man. Have a great rest of your weekend.
You too. Have a good night, everybody.